Hey Stags fans, welcome back to another edition of From the Director's Chair. My name is JJ Duke. Paul Schlickman, Director of Athletics, here with me. It's almost a year since we have started this series. Maybe in a couple episodes from now, there's not a blooper reel per se, because I think, one take pretty much every time, perfect on the spot?
Absolutely. I think we've been pretty good. It's hard to believe that it's been a year. Appreciate you, appreciate the crew behind the cameras here and everything our external team's doing. I think it's been great. It's been a lot of fun, and so look forward to keeping it rolling.
Now we're in the transition from the fall to the winter season. Let's briefly update on what's been happening with the fall teams. A number of teams currently fighting for top spots or postseason spots right now. Men's soccer coming into their final few games in conference play, top of the table. They had a big clash against Quinnipiac over Alumni and Family Weekend. Good crowd. Goalless draw, but they're still very much in the fight.
Yeah, it's been great to see how they've evolved over the course of the season, and we're on the home stretch. The nice thing is they get to finish with a large part of their games at home against some of the heavy hitters in the league right now. They've matured really well, a bunch of young guys. They've had some injuries on the defensive side, but positioned themselves really well. Their sign of a good team is figuring out how to win games when you're not necessarily at your best, and they've done that, and so excited to see how that finishes.
And of course, the team is definitely wanting to emulate the atmosphere that we had last year for the postseason run, including bumper crowds for the semifinal and the finals. So I know Coach Reese and the boys are looking to get a pretty similar run coming up this November.
Fantastic atmosphere from last year. We'd love to duplicate that and be hosting the MAC Championship, but can't look too far ahead. Got to take them one at a time in order to set ourselves up for that.
And one team that's certainly not looking too far ahead, but it's only just a couple of days away. Field hockey will be returning once again to the postseason as they clinch their spot in the MAC Championships. That tournament's going to be held down at Monmouth, a place where this team had a lot of success last year.
Right, they obviously acquitted themselves well down the stretch last year and did very well against Monmouth, largely considered to be the odds-on favorite, and again this year. But we're right there. I like how this team has evolved as well. They've kind of hit some iron in the second half of the league, but I think they can rise to the occasion.
Volleyball as well, coming down the final stretch. Everybody goes to the tournament this year that's going to be held down at Disney, but at the same time, Coach Kress looking for their team to get into the top two, to get a bye to the semifinals, and they're going to be enjoying pretty much the remainder of their schedule at home.
I like the resilience of this team. They've had a tough year on a number of fronts, so in terms of maintaining the level of success they've had, arguably, as we've talked about before, lost two of the best players in our history, had some injuries early on, a young group. I think they've really wrestled with finding their rhythm and their identity. I like their chances down the stretch. I think they'll be right there. Coach Kress continuing to do a great job with them. High character kids on the team. I like our chances on the neutral court. I think we're tourney tested. I think, when we get there, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. I think we'll contend.
And to wrap up the fall schedule, women's soccer saw their season come to an end just recently. Did not make the postseason, but a couple of bright notes to look from this past campaign. Alex Madden leading the conference in goals. Coach Dave Barrett, his first season, seen improvement in wins and a little bit more on the offensive side. I know there's still a lot of pieces left to kind of shuffle around that group, but there's certainly signs for growth.
No question. I think the future is very bright. Great kids in the program, and I think we've shown a lot of progress in a lot of ways that may not necessarily show up in the records. So I'm sure they're disappointed at some level in terms of their finish and not qualifying for the playoffs, but a lot of infrastructure to build on and a lot of things that they've done to kind of set themselves up for future success.
And to make sure to stay tuned with all things, latest games, news, notes, and tournament updates, FairfieldStags.com is the place to go. Now, recently, Fairfield University as a whole, especially as well with athletics, had their Alumni and Family Weekend, and a litany of events happen across campus throughout the entire weekend. Men's soccer, as we mentioned, had a home game. Field hockey, a couple of matches at home. Volleyball, para matches, on and on and on. There was a pep rally at Rafferty Stadium, and the highly anticipated red-white scrimmage for men's basketball. A lot to dive into, and I know there's a lot of hours, but tell us about the weekend.
Yeah, so I've gone through two of them now, and incredibly impressed with the quality, the caliber of the type of events that we put out in that regard. And we talked about it before, incredibly impressed with the level of engagement and affinity and sense of pride and passion that our alumni have for this place. That is evidenced on this particular weekend by the incredible turnout. There's a great combination of university-wide events with parents' engagement and Dr. Nemec doing an address to the campus, and obviously a whole slew of athletic events which can and should be, I think, a focal point of an alumni weekend, a homecoming weekend of this type. It was great. It was a high energy, a lot of dynamics to it, just fun to be a part of. Jam-packed, no question. It's certainly one of our signature events, throughout the year that I think a lot of people look forward to. And it's great to see a lot of our student-athlete alums back and interacting with each other, and certainly something important for us to continue to do is engage them in a very substantive way to kind of keep them part of the family.
Well, definitely the alums certainly enjoyed their weekend, got to see a little bit of what goes on well, not just a regular weekend, but a pretty jam-packed weekend as well, and seeing some of the new facility upgrades and improvements, including where we are right now in the Academic Center. It's a long project that was finally completed to, bring it a little bit more of the modern new era. And I tell you this much, this is a beautiful facility for the student athletes.
Very excited about it. It's empty right now, but the thing that pleases me the most is whether I'm coming in early in the morning, walking through midday, leaving at night, coming back in here after a game at night, there's the number of students that are utilizing it has grown exponentially. So that speaks to me that they're enjoying it, they're finding it a comfortable, meaningful, productive place to study, and that's exactly what we were striving for, to kind of make it their home away from home, if you will. And so I think it's serving its great purpose, and really excited about providing that opportunity and that resource to our student athletes. That's what it's all about.
Now we look forward to the season that is coming up right now, and most notably basketball season, as we're only just a few weeks away from the first game of the season for both the men and the women. Right. Schedule, let's dive into it right now. The men open up on the road their second straight year playing Purdue. Always a good test playing a Big Ten school. On the women's side, down on the road at Richmond, and then the first doubleheader, it's going to be over at the Webster Bank Arena, will be against LIU Brooklyn. The women's game at 5, the men at 7:30. The big note on the schedule this year, a lot of games being played on campus. In fact, for the men, 7 games at Alumni Hall. Let's talk about it a little bit and why it was so important to bring games back at home.
Right. So first of all, yeah, hoop season is here. It's hard to believe. I like how it lines up to your early point about Purdue and Richmond for the women. Not uncommon to kind of play a couple of up games on the road, and a Big Ten school and a great school like Richmond and the Atlantic 10 that we like to be associated with, we like to be aligned with, and so we're excited about playing those quality opponents on the road. And then we get to come back, and I think the men after a couple games and get a little doubleheader action at home. So a good way to kick off the home season. Very excited about the opportunity to play some games at Alumni. I think the way it lines up for us, we're kind of attacking it with the best of both worlds. So we still have a lot of the advantages and building off of the long-standing relationship we've had with Webster Bank and playing 5 games up there. At the same time, one of the things that we're really looking to do is regenerate, reactivate enthusiasm on campus and get our students and faculty and staff and our community, for that matter, back in the habit and re-engaged to go to games. So that's a great opportunity for us. We haven't done that in a long time. In anticipation of that, we're trying to do as much as we can to enhance the fan experience at Alumni in a number of ways. So very excited about it, and I think it'll be an exciting season for our fans and certainly for our players. It's a tremendous home court advantage. It's been proven to be that over time. So I think our coaches and athletes are excited about it as well.
Personally, I'm looking forward to seeing a few games back, and the first home game for the men is going to be on Thursday, December the 6th at 7 p.m. as they take on Oakland. And looking ahead as well through this season, recently the preseason polls came out. Women were projected to finish 5th, the men 7th. Deja Juf on the women's side, 3rd team all-conference. Take that with a little bit of grain of salt, as I know both teams are really hoping to, go above and beyond that.
Right. It's something we do. It is a barometer. I don't think it's the barometer to place too much or too little stock in. We are who we are on both sides. I've been to a bunch of practices with both the men and the women. I like the energy. I like the enthusiasm. I like the competitiveness. They've been getting after it since the summer. And from my viewpoint, it's just it's a long season and a long haul. It's getting better every day. It's about trying to peak at the right time, to maximize what you can do in the league. And at the end of the day, if regardless of what stock you place in those rankings, we under promise and over deliver. So hopefully that's the case.
And of course, there's nothing like that run that the team on the men's side had this past March, going all the way to the final. So hopefully it's going to be another big season on the hardwood. Stay tuned. Again, fairfieldstags.com for your schedules and all your news and notes. Quickly, before we get to the Ask Paul segment, our spring schedules were released in the past couple of weeks. Yep. Most notably, men's and women's lacrosse, 19 home dates between the two sides, the women with 10 and the men with 9, and a couple nice and new names that we don't often see. The men's side, Georgetown, and first-year program Utah are coming in, and the women are going to be hosting Denver on the return of a home and home from a couple of years ago. Nice to have a couple of new faces around Rafferty, and certainly, sure, I know it's a little bit away, but it's almost lacrosse season already.
Well, they're out there practicing for their fall ball as we speak, so it's always prevalent. No better place in the Northeast to play a lacrosse game than Rafferty Stadium, whether it's on the men's side or the women's side. So great to have as many home games there as we can, and against quality opponents. And Georgetown, for a lot of reasons, a traditional opponent and a great opponent for us based on the caliber of institution, but also the tradition of their lacrosse program. And I think the Utah game speaks to the incredible growth and expansion of the game of lacrosse. It's a national sport now, and for a long time it was in regional pockets, but now very much so, and we recruit nationally, and I think so it's great to kind of see that come to play or come to fruition at Rafferty as well.
Well, it's certainly going to be all kicking off really soon as we get going in February, so it's nothing like a little bit of a chill in the air, but certainly lacrosse season, like basketball, is right around the corner. Now we head to our favorite segment of the show from the Director's Chair. That is the Ask Paul segment. So again, if you want to send in your questions to a future episode, all you have to go to is fairfieldstags.com/askpaul. Now this one was interesting, as we already touched on a little bit of the Alumni Hall and the expectations, but this was brought in from a class of 2011 alum, and wondering, now President Nemec has done some nationwide, sure, tours and meet and greets with different alums that live throughout the country. Is this something that perhaps on the athletic side you would be considering down the road?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question, and so I would say a couple things. In my year here, I have been to the vast majority of those events that Dr. Nemec has had across the country. They've been fantastic. They've been incredibly well attended, and it has provided me and us with the forum athletically to meet with a lot of alums and donors, and whether it was formally or informally, talk about our program, talk about our vision, talk about the state of athletics and where we want to go and everything that we aspire to be. So that has been incredibly helpful for me to be part of that. So in some sense, that was the building block of this concept. And now we're gradually building on that. We are very consciously and pointedly getting out in the community, in the local community, and talking to civic groups, be it me or other members of our staff or the coaches, and then also with our advancement team and our alumni folks, being very strategic about having alumni events in conjunction with games. For instance, we're doing what we hope will be a very well-attended event up at Boston College when we play men's basketball up there. So while it may not necessarily have that moniker or be as formalized as calling it a coach's tour or an athletics tour, we're really doing it and in kind of building on it, and we hope to continue to do more of it. I think it's a good play for us. It's well received and certainly makes a lot of sense. So great idea, and it's something that's a strategic priority for us and we'll continue to do.
And something that was also very interesting that was brought up by our backroom staff is the fact that you are very well known to return some of your emails and phone calls from those alums. So hey, if you want to reach out, perhaps let us know. Maybe if you're going to be coming out to one of those games, as you said, the Boston College game, just send an email, or you can ask in the Ask Paul segment. Again, is fairfieldstags.com/askpaul. And if you want to ask a question that maybe perhaps has already been answered in one of our previous shows, all you have to go back to fairfieldstags.com/director's chair, and you can watch all the archives of all of our previous episodes. As I said, we're coming up close to a year. And I think, Paul, that's going to do it.
Right.
Pleasure having you again.
Always. Thanks, JJ. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And again, Stags fans, thanks so much for tuning in. Until then, go Stags.